Welcome to the third video on reproduction. So far we have looked at the introduction, we have also looked at asexual reproduction, we have looked at sexual reproduction in plants. In this video we're going to take a look at the first part of sexual reproduction in animals, where we're going to take a look at reproduction in frogs and reproduction in man. So we're going to start with frogs. So frogs require water in order to reproduce. This is because their eggs and larval stages are adapted to obtaining their oxygen from water. So if the eggs and larval stages of a frog are outside water, they are not designed to get oxygen from air, but to get absorbed oxygen from water. So they cannot survive. They are supposed to be in water for them to survive. So mature male frogs attract females for mating by making a croaking sounds. These are the sounds we hear at night for those who stay where frogs are. So there's that croaking sounds that are made by male frogs so as to attract the female frogs. So when the male frog successfully attracts the female frog, it will mount the female frog in water to start the copulation process. During this copulation process, the female produces large number of eggs, which are then fertilized by the spermatozoa, which is the full name for sperm, from the male outside of the female's body. Okay, so the sperm and the eggs are released outside the bodies of the female. Okay, so this type of fertilization, when the spermatozoa and the eggs meet, is called external fertilization because it occurs outside the body. So once the eggs have been laid, there is no parental care, but they are left to develop on their own. Frogs won't do things like what chicken do to eggs to keep them home, and also till they hatch and they are taught how to feed and stuff. So no parental care in frogs. Okay, once once they are laid, then the parents are going to go about without caring that there are eggs behind. So each egg contains egg yolk, which is rich in food needed for development of the embryo until it hatches to produce what is called a tadpole. So this tadpole is not like a frog. Okay, it doesn't look like a frog, it looks different. Okay, so this tadpole moves through water by propelling itself using a tail and obtains oxygen from water using gills, just like a fish. So this is a simple life cycle of a frog. Okay, so first adult frogs can mate. When they mate, they are going to have lots of eggs in water. These eggs are going to hatch to where tadpoles are going to come out. Then this tadpole is going to develop eggs. So once it develops eggs, it will later develop to become a young frog. Then the young frog is going to grow to become an adult frog. So next we go to reproduction in man. So human bodies are equipped with sexual organs, which are called gonads, that are used for sexual reproduction. The male gonads are called testes. The singular is testis, well the female gonads are called ovaries. Okay, so these are the sexual organs in males and females. Males, they are testes, then females, they are ovaries. So these are the different parts that makes up the male reproductive system and the female reproductive system. So let's go through some parts, what they do. So I'm going to start with the gonads. Okay, so this is a testis. There are usually two. So this testis is in a bag called a scrotum. So this the testis is not inside the male's body, it is outside, okay, enclosed in this scrotum. So why is it outside? The reason is to keep it on a lower temperature than the temperature in the body, which is favorable for sperm productions. Okay, so the function of the testis is to produce sperm or spermatozoa. So once the sperms are produced, they are going to be stored in this coil here, which is just attached to the testis, called epididymis. Okay, so this epididymis acts as a storage for sperms. So once they are needed, they are going to go through this tube. Okay, this tube goes like this up to here. This tube is called the sperm duct or vas deferens. Sperm duct or vas deferens. So its job is to conduct sperms from the epididymis to this part here called the prostate gland. Okay, so other than that, we have this bladder here, which is part of the urinary system. Okay, urinary system, which means it keeps urine. Okay, so this urine which is kept here will come through this tube here. Okay, and this as it is coming here, it will combine with the sperms if sperms are present, and they will both travel in this tube called urethra. So this tube here, urethra, it's where sperms are conducted from here to the outside of the body, and it is also where urine is conducted from the bladder to the outside of the body. Okay, then the other part which should be of interest is the penis. So the penis is this muscular organ outside the main human body, which actually does the deposit of the sperms into the female sexual organs. So these are the main parts of the male sexual male reproductive system. So next we go to the female reproductive system. So here we're going to start with the gonads themselves, which is the ovary. So the ovary secretes eggs, which are called ovum. Okay, so these eggs, when they are secreted, they are going to go, or they are going to pass through this tube called the oviduct or fallopian tube. Okay, so when they pass through the oviduct or the fallopian tube, they are going to pass through this region here called the uterus. So the uterus is very important during a process called implantation. Okay, so implantation is when a baby has been is about to be formed. So when an egg and the sperm meet, then the fetus and the embryo is about to develop. So this is where that happens. Okay, then after that we have got this region here called the cervix. So this cervix connects this part here, the vagina, to the uterus. It also lubricates the vagina during sexual intercourse. Okay, then another part of interest is the bladder here, which is part of the female which is the part of the urinary system, and of course it stores urine. Okay, so away from that, from the bladder, we have the urethra, where urine passes, and going back to the vagina, which is the region where sperms are deposited. So the vagina, the cervix, and the uterus are part of what is called the birth canal, where the baby passes during childbirth. So these are the main parts of interest in the female reproductive system. So let's go through what I've just explained, and also to emphasize on some points that I did not mention. So functions of parts of the male reproductive system, we start with the testes, which are a pair of structures that produce spermatozoa and secrete the hormone called testosterone. Okay, this is a very important hormone, so we shouldn't forget this. We're going to need its understanding at some point. In short, knowing that testes produce testosterone is going to be very helpful. So They are found in a sac of skin called the scrotum, located outside the lower abdomen. The scrotum holds the testicles outside the body to keep them at a temperature slightly lower than that of the body for more effective production of sperms. The next one is the epididymis, which is made of a coiled tube where sperms are stored. There is also a sperm duct, also called the vas deferens, which is a tube that carries sperms from the epididymis to the urethra. The urethra is a tube that carries semen from the sperm duct and urine from the bladder. Then there is also a penis, which is an erectile organ that is used to deposit semen into the vagina during sexual intercourse. The semen is deposited into the vagina by a process called ejaculation. Then we go to the female reproductive system. The ovaries are a pair of gonads responsible for formation of eggs and for secretion of two types of hormones, that is estrogen and progesterone. So we're going to appreciate the role of estrogen and progesterone later. Then there's the oviduct, which is a tube through which the ovum travels from the ovary to the uterus. The ovum is the egg, don't forget. It is also the site where fertilization occurs. So when the sperm and the egg meet in the oviduct. The uterus is the site for implantation and development of the fetus. So this is where the process that I mentioned, implantation, occurs, and that's where the fetus develops. The cervix connects the vagina to the uterus and forms part of the birth canal. This also is the point where semen is deposited during sexual intercourse. Okay. Yes. So when the process of ejaculation has occurred, the semen or the spermatozoa had deposited in the cervix. Additionally, the cervix also secretes fluids that lubricate the vagina during sexual intercourse. The vagina is the part where an erect penis is inserted during sexual intercourse. So when we're looking at the picture, I mentioned that the vagina is where sperms are deposited, but no, it's the cervix. The vagina is just where the penis is inserted during sexual intercourse. It also forms part of the birth canal, just like the cervix. So now we go to sexual characteristics. So as a person is growing, there are two sexual characteristics, sexual development characteristics that they undergo. There's primary and there's secondary. Okay, so primary, during sexual development, the human being first develops the primary sexual characteristics, which include the sexual organs and the reproductive system. So as a person is growing, the sexual organs have to be developed and the reproductive system has to be developed. That is primary sexual characteristics development. So to complete its sexual development, the human body must develop secondary sexual characteristics. These are characteristics that the human body develops after reaching a stage called puberty. So when a human being reaches this puberty, that's when they start developing these secondary sexual characteristics. So these secondary sexual characteristics make the body more adapted to carry out reproduction and are influenced by hormones. So in males, their development is influenced by the hormone called testosterone, which is secreted by the testicles. Okay, so remember the testosterone, which is secreted by the testicles. Yeah, so that its job is to help with the development of the secondary sexual characteristics. Well, in females, their development is influenced by the hormone called estrogen, which is secreted by the ovaries. So what are some of the male secondary sexual characteristics? First, when a male reaches puberty, they'll start producing sperms. So first is sperm production, then also the testicles and the penis are going to enlarge. Then there's also going to be development of pubic hair, beards, hair on the chest and in the armpits. Okay, then their voice is also going to deepen so that they can be scaring people. All right, so depending on the voice is also a secondary sexual characteristic. The body also becomes more muscular. Then for female, what are some secondary sexual characteristics? So first, they will start menstrual cycle. They will start undergoing menstrual cycle. We are going to explain the science of menstrual cycle soon. Then after that, the breasts are going to enlarge. Then also the hips are going to widen. there is also going to be development of pubic hair and hair in the armpits. Development of pubic hair and hair in the armpits. Also, the vagina is going to enlarge. The skin will become more tender and supple. Then females stop their menstrual cycle when they reach a stage of sexual development called menopause at 45 to 50 years of age. The menstrual cycle is going to stop. Now we focus our attention to the menstrual cycle. So what's the menstrual cycle? The menstrual cycle. So this is a cycle of about 28 days during which a woman experiences ovulation and menstruation one after the other. So there are two processes that occur during menstrual cycle. There is ovulation and there is menstruation. Okay, so what is ovulation and what is menstruation? So ovulation is just the release of an ovum from the ovary. So when the ovary releases the ovum, that's ovulation. Well, on the other hand, menstruation is the shedding of the uterus lining together with some blood through the vagina, which occurs when an ovum does not get fertilized. So when ovulation has occurred, the idea is that egg, the ovum, is supposed to be fertilized. When it has not been fertilized, it together with the lining of the uterus are removed so as to clean the uterus, and they are then the body then gets rid of the lining of the uterus and the ovum, which by then is going to be dead. Okay, so that's why these two processes are connected. So when ovulation has occurred, it is expected that the egg should be fertilized. When it is not fertilized, it dies, and together the egg together with the lining of the uterus are removed outside the body. Okay, so that process where now the dead egg and the lining of the uterus are supposed to be removed is menstruation. So this menstruation, or the shedding off of the uterus lining together with some blood, lasts about 3 to 5 days. So ovulation and menstruation occur approximately 14 days after each other. So when ovulation has occurred, 14 days passes, menstruation is going to start. So menstruation will last for 3 to 5 days. When it has finished, after 14 days, ovulation again is going to start. So the menstrual cycle is controlled by hormones secreted by the pituitary gland and the ovaries. Okay, so there are two types of hormones that are involved in these processes. Okay, the first type of hormones are secreted by the ovaries and pituitary gland. Okay, actually the first type of hormones are secreted by the pituitary gland. The second type of hormones are secreted by the ovaries. Okay, so the hormones from the pituitary gland, which are just two, follicle stimulating hormone FSH and luteinizing hormone LH, act on the ovaries. Okay, so then the hormones from the ovaries, which are two, estrogen and progesterone, act on the lining of the uterus. Okay, so the hormones from the pituitary gland work on the ovaries, then the hormones from the ovaries, they go and act on the lining of the uterus. So we're going to use a diagram just to put everything in perspective. We understand how these hormones are secreted and what they do, and how they influence ovulation and menstruation. So now let's use this picture to understand how various hormones help in menstruation. So the first hormone that is secreted is the pituitary gland hormone called FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. So this follicle stimulating hormone works on the ovum. So it makes the ovum ripe by building this follicle called Graafian follicle. So this Graafian follicle has an important role to play in the next step. Okay, so the follicle stimulating hormone makes the ovum ripe, okay, by building the Graafian follicle. So being ripe, it means it's ready for ovulation. Okay, then this Graafian follicle it secretes a hormone called estrogen. So here I'm supposed to put 2. So the second hormone that is secreted is estrogen. So this graph on the bottom here, on the bottom, as you can see, there are days of the menstrual cycle. That's from 0 to 28. Okay, and on the y-axis is the thickness of the uterus lining. Okay, so in short, at this point, because this point is higher, so we can say the lining of the uterus is thick as compared to this point here. Okay, so from day 0, the lining of the uterus will be getting thinner. On day 5, estrogen is going to be secreted by the Graafian follicle. This estrogen will start building up the lining of the uterus, making it thicker. Okay, so this estrogen that is being secreted also, other than just working on the lining of the uterus, it inhibits the production of the follicle stimulating hormone. So it makes the pituitary gland decrease the production of the FSH, and also it encourages the pituitary gland to secrete the luteinizing hormone LH, which is stage 3 or hormone number 3. So as this hormone LH or luteinizing hormone is being secreted, it's going to make sure that ovulation takes place. That is, the ovum is going to be secreted by the ovary. Okay, so the secretion of the ovum is also done by building what is called a corpus luteum from the remains of the Graafian follicle. Okay, so once the ovulation has happened, the Graafian follicle starts disintegrating, then the LH is going to come and start and build the corpus luteum. Okay, so the luteinizing hormone is going to secrete is going to make sure that ovulation has taken place, the ovum has been secreted by the ovary, and it will also start building the corpus luteum. Okay, so the idea is when the ovum has been secreted, it is supposed to meet with the spermatozoa somewhere so that they fertilize and they start making an embryo and all. Okay, so when the fertilization has occurred, for the embryo to develop, it has to go to the uterus. Okay, so now for the environment in the uterus to be conducive, the lining of the uterus must be thick enough. Okay, that's the reason why estrogen is given this task of building the lining of the uterus. Okay, so the luteinizing hormone, when ovulation has occurred, when it makes this corpus luteum, since there is no the Graafian follicle which secretes estrogen to work on the lining of the uterus, the corpus luteum secretes progesterone. So progesterone is going to maintain the lining of the uterus so that it is thick and ready for implantation. Okay, so implantation is now after fertilization. The baby has to start developing somewhere, or the embryo has to start developing in the uterus. So when fertilization has occurred, the next stage is implantation, which occurs in the uterus. Okay, so when the Graafian follicle has fallen off and there's nothing that can produce estrogen, progesterone will be secreted by the corpus luteum. Okay, so progesterone will come and work on the lining of the uterus. It will also do other jobs. It will discourage the production of the FSH, which was also discouraged by estrogen, and LH. Okay, so this is what happens. Now the final stage depends on whether fertilization has occurred or not. Okay, if fertilization has occurred, that is, the ovum has fused or has come in contact with the sperm and fertilization has occurred, then this progesterone has to be secreted so that the lining of the uterus continues being in good shape. Okay, so this corpus luteum will continue existing and producing the progesterone. However, when there is no fertilization, when the ovum just continues till it reaches the uterus the corpus luteum is going to disintegrate and to stop producing progesterone. Since there is nothing to maintain the lining of the uterus, which should be progesterone, so the lining of the uterus is going to shed off, and the lining of the uterus together with the ovum which has failed to fertilize are going to be removed from the body. They are going to be removed from the body, and the process will start again. That is, the FSH will start again. Okay, so this is the menstrual cycle. So in a nutshell, FSH builds the Graafian follicle. The Graafian follicle produces estrogen, start working on the line of the uterus. Estrogen inhibits this but promotes the production of LH. LH brings about ovulation. Okay, so when ovulation starts, the Graafian follicle disintegrates, so there's nothing to produce estrogen. Okay, the OH builds corpus luteum. The corpus luteum starts secreting the progesterone, since the estrogen cannot be produced by the Graafian follicle since it does not exist. Okay, the progesterone will be maintaining the holes or the lining of the uterus. If there is fertilization, the progesterone will keep on being secreted by the corpus luteum, so that the lining of the uterus is in good shape. But if there is no fertilization, the corpus luteum will disintegrate and progesterone won't be secreted, and the lining of the uterus is going to be shed off together with the ovum and blood, and they are going to be removed from the body. So the roles of these hormones are summarized below. So what I've just explained, but now let's put some words. So follicle stimulating hormones secreted by the pituitary gland and causes the ripening of the eggs in the ovaries by stimulating the development of the Graafian follicle around them. Estrogen secreted by the Graafian follicle in the ovary. It builds up the lining of the uterus, inhibits further secretion of the FSH, and stimulates secretion of LH. LH is secreted by the pituitary gland. It stimulates ovulation and the development of the corpus luteum, which is also called the yellow body, from the remains of the Graafian follicle. Then progesterone is secreted by the corpus luteum in the ovaries. It maintains the growth of the uterus lining and increases blood supply to it in readiness for implantation in case fertilization occurs. It also inhibits secretion of these two hormones, which are released by the pituitary gland, FSH and LH. However, the corpus luteum gets progressively smaller and it completely degenerates, and there is no more progesterone being secreted. When this happens, the line of the uterus breaks down and the pituitary gland starts secreting FSH to begin the cycle all over again. So this is the third summary of the menstrual cycle. I'm sure you have gotten it. So on the other hand, if the egg gets fertilized, the corpus luteum takes longer to degenerate until the placenta has developed in the uterus. What's the placenta? We're going to take a look at that. So this marks the end of this part of reproduction. We're ending with one video. Happy hunting.